pipeline welding is when you hear the term pipe welding, that's what most people think of initially. And if you guys have ever like noticed driving down the highway or something, you might see like a big dually diesel truck. It's got a big Lincoln weld machine in the back, and not like Duke Energy. I'm talking like it looks like it's this guy's own personal rigging weld machine truck. You guys ever seen anything like that? We call them welding rigs. Okay, that is not what me. That's not. I've never welded off one. Have you?
Not from a rig now.
Not from a rig.
Gas trap.
Um, those guys that do that, those are pipeline welders. Pipe welders and pipeline welders, there's a little bit of a difference. Now, you may have heard or seen, and I know I threw out a number earlier, 100,000, six figures, but you're probably going to hear people saying, I made 250K as a welder. I made 350K as a welder. Is that possible? Yes, it is. Is it rare? Extremely. Extremely. The best way I can explain that is like not every football player is Tom Brady. Tom Brady makes a lot more than the rest of the football players, but they're all professional football players. Does that kind of make sense? Pipeliners are at the top. The reason why they're at the top is not because of skill. It's because of the inconvenience that the job puts you in. Okay, does that kind of make sense? So the bigger inconvenience to you and your family life is typically the more money you're going to make. Does that make sense? Now, with that said, a lot of people come to this school with the idea already in their head, I'm going to be a pipeline welder when I graduate. And you very well will. I mean, actually, I can say this with 100% confidence. You are going to have the skills. You're just not going to have the tools. So let me explain that real quick, okay? I'm going to backtrack a little bit. I'm a process pipe welder. Ross here is a process pipe welder. You guys know what that means. A process pipe welder. Imagine it like this. You ever heard the term processed foods? Yeah? Anything that goes through a process in order for it to be used for human consumption, whether that's laundry for your clothes or a Pepsi out of a Pepsi bottle, right? Anything that product went through, someone like me welded, right? Food, underground pipes, sewage, things like that. Does that kind of make sense? So we handle all of that, all of it. And that is the most strict, how would you word that? As far as like X-ray. As the worker or as the welder, you will be,
It's gotta be the code spec.
you will be criticized, I guess is a way to put it, on the quality of your work more as a process pipe welder than any other type of welding. Any. You guys ever heard the term X-ray inspection? Yeah, some of you have welded, probably heard that before. I would say a safe number would be 30 to 40% of every weld I've ever made has been 100% X-ray inspected. It's overkill. I'm going to be bluntly honest with you. Most of the stuff we've welded on and the level of inspections we've gone through, it's overkill. But it's overkill on purpose. It's overkill to make sure we don't have nuclear bombs going off in the United States because these chemical plants are exploding. Because that was bigger than Hiroshima, what happened in Beirut. So like in our industry, we just got to show up to the job site and they're going to hand us a hard hat. They're going to hand us the safety glasses. They're going to give us the gloves and they're going to say, your weld's over there, go park your truck, get your tools out, and the weld machine and everything will be there. Basically what I'm trying to say is I'm not going to have to spend a nickel of my own money in order to complete my job or even show up for my job. A pipeliner, complete opposite, okay? Everything in that truck belongs to them. When you see one of those trucks rolling down the road, those trucks are worth about $150,000. That's how much the truck and the equipment are probably worth. Exactly. So they're all, to a degree, they are. They could go and hire in on a job where they need pipeliners, and then you'll be like a 1099 worker or something like that. But yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. Because of the environment that someone like that finds themselves in, right? A lot of times, and I'll tell a little bit of a story here because I actually have a very good friend of mine who is a pipeline welder. He lives in Miami. I've known him for years and years and years, and he, about 2 or 3 years ago, he started his own little weld repair shop, got off the road, and he was done. And I asked him why, because he was making like $200,000, $300,000 a year. And he said that his wife called him one day, and his son, who was 2 years old, fell and broke his arm, like snapped the thing in half. So he was like, I need to go, right? And he was working in like North Dakota, West Dakota, wherever, one of the Dakotas. He goes up to the foreman and he goes, hey man, my son just literally snapped his arm in half. I'm going to go hit a flight. I'm going to be back in a couple days, okay? Put out his hand. He's like, nice working with you. What do you mean? He goes, there's 5 trucks out in the parking lot waiting to take your spot. The second you stop welding is the second I replace you. He had to quit his job in order to go back home to be with his family. It kind of sounds a little cutthroat, you know, like there's, but that is how that industry operates, right? The minute that it stops, you're done. Because of that, they make a lot of money. They're working 16-hour days. They're working 7 days a week. They don't get a day off until it's done. No joke. Said the longest he went without a day off was 9 months. That includes Sundays. 9 months straight. Didn't get to go home once. Didn't see his wife and kids unless they came to him. Right? Now, with that said, those types of guys, when those jobs end, they have enough money, they can take 6 months off. And a lot of times that's what those types of people do. When you guys get to that point, that is a question you're all gonna have to ask yourself, is what is most important? And a lot of times it's finding a balance there. How can I get the most pay with the most convenience? So you guys are doing a 1,000-hour welding course, 40 hours a week, that's a full-time job, and you're here for 6 months. Times that by 2, it's 2,000 hours. That is a full-time job in the United States. You're considered a full-time employee if you work 2,000 hours a year. I did 4,400 hours that year. 4,400, right? So I did average at least 80 hours a week. My first day off, so when I graduated from here, I took the weld test. They put me to work that afternoon. They didn't even let me come in the next day. They're like, oh man, you can start at 12. Okay. So anyway, I did that, and it was 43 days before I got my first Sunday off. With that said, my first year out of this school, I broke 6 figures. I made $111,000 my first year out of this school.